That's Voom from their new record, Something Good Is Happening. It's the band's first album in almost 20 years and their third overall in as many decades. We caught up to Voom frontman Buzz Moller, who was sitting in his garden shed, and asked him about Voom's unconventional career arc.
It was never super serious, it was never like a big careerist move.
Right.
I've never not had a job, like a proper job. I've never, like I've always put on my gumboots and gone out and done concreting, or teaching. I taught at Mainz as a music teacher for 10 years, and I worked in the share market in the 90s, and all that time I've also had a plastering business where I did concrete and stuff. And Voom has always been like a kind of a hobby band that's just been fun to do, and managed to have a great time doing it without the pressure of doing it full time, which God, I don't know how people do that, but maybe like if something ever happened and someone invited us to go on tour with them around the world, on some big tour, or you got a big hit song or something like that, you could finance when you got 4 kids,
yeah,
and you're raising your family and you got a mortgage and all that sort of stuff. It's like, I don't need to put myself through the struggle.
Gotcha. So the album is called Something Good Is Happening. Sounds very positive. Does that relate to your state of mind these days?
That's named after one of the songs on it, and the song was written in the middle of lockdown, like when the whole world was sort of like collapsing, and everyone was freaking out. And I came out one morning at about 4 or 5 in the morning, and I was looking at the sky, and all 8 planets were in a line across the sky.
Yeah.
It was right in the middle of when everyone was saying that this is the end of the human race and all that. Sort of probably about a week into lockdown, and I just laughed, and I just thought, wow, the universe is beautiful, and it doesn't really care about us and our little human goings on planet Earth. It's not, and I just thought there's always something good happening.
Something good is happening. Something good is happening. Something good is happening. Something good is happening.
Baby, since the universe, can't you see? Just around the corner, something really good.
And I sat down and wrote this little ditty that morning on my laptop, and thinking that I was just going to do it in half an hour and then run off to work. And then suddenly I remember looking at my watch, and it was like 5:30 in the evening. I spent the whole entire day and made this little piece of music. And that was just, I don't know, it was kind of like Asperger's behavior. I just got in my little bubble or in my tunnel and, came out with that. And it was so the opposite of what was going on at the time, in terms of sentiment or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Is that how your songwriting was? Sorry, what?
I was going to say, you've been around doing what you do as long as I have, right?
Probably longer. I'm
Yeah.
guessing I'm about 10 years older than you.
You did a review of our first album back in the 90s.
That sounds like something I might have done. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well
I remember
done.
seeing you guys opening for Pulp as well.
Oh, right. On the North Shore Event Center.
That's the one.
Yeah.
I went with my daughter. She was
really?
like 15 or something, and she's a big fan of Pulp. And we caught you guys opening act. Yeah.
Yeah, right. We would have been terrible.
Why would you say that?
I don't think we were a great live band back then. And I remember watching Pulp after that and just thinking, oh, wow, is that how you do it?
Well, I do remember, and Jarvis did most of the show with his fly down. So
Yeah, probably on purpose.
well, I don't know.
Cat, wasn't he?
We thought it was funny.
Yeah.
The songs that make up this new album, I'm assuming they come from how far back? Because I assume you didn't just sit down and write these to make an album one day.
No. Like every Voom album so far, it's pretty eclectic in
Yeah.
terms of the types of sounds that you'll get on each song, but also, I mean, that's just a direct result of the way that they were recorded and when they were recorded. And we are going to put out an album one day where every song sounds the same and it's all recorded nicely like a proper band. And it's going to be like a Ramones record, and you'll just put it on and you'll party from beginning to end, you know?
Okay.
This this is sort of like, I guess, the highs and the lows and the lefts and the rights of everything that's happened in the last 20 years. And some of those songs are 20 years old and some of them are brand new. So, and like that, Something Good Is Happening, that was from 2021 in the lockdown. And that song Magic, that's a song that I wrote with Amelia
Right.
when she was making her album, and I was helping her out with her songs, and I wrote a song for her, and she comes back and says, "Oh no, that's way too Voom sounding for me," and so I said, "Oh, okay, damn, that tends to happen, you know." So I said, why don't you sing on it, and we'll do it as a song, and you sing on it, you know, and that came
Yeah.
about that.
So what is the newest song on the album?
Um, Crikey. Well, there's one there, like there's one called Everyone,
Right.
and half of that was written this year, and half of it was written 20 years ago.
Okay.
So, you know, like Murray said to me, look, this is a good little ditty that we found from 20 years ago. Why don't we expand it out and write a new verse and stuff? And he sat just over there and you know, with a pen and paper, come on, Buzz, come up with something and we'll put it in there and stuff. And he kind of bullied me into finishing that one off, which was great. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I felt like I was co-writing with my 20-year younger self.
Oh yeah, every one of us comes from the same place. Once upon a time in the big splash, we were all together as one, united in a funny kaleidoscopic soup. Oh yeah, trying to get back there. Everyone's trying to get that feeling again, but we don't know. Searching for so long, you feel so alone now. You're stuck in your cell phone, 'cause you don't know how to get that feeling again.
There's some of them they're just me alone 10 years ago singing into my phone as I woke up in the morning, and some of it is like stuff that in the last 6 months us as a whole band have gotten together and recorded things with proper drums and bass and guitars and stuff like that. So yeah, it is very process wise quite varied and eclectic, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So the other band members, you mentioned Murray, that's Murray Fisher. You got
Murray
Nick,
Fisher, yeah.
Nick Buckton, and your drummer is now Josh Sorensen. Is that right?
Gosh, yeah. Josh and I used to be teachers at a place called Mainz,
Right. Which is no more, is it?
Yeah. And I taught there for 10 years as a songwriting teacher, and Josh, he was running a department, and we became great friends working there, and so we ended up working together that way. But Mainz sadly closed down 2 years ago with floods.
That's a bummer. It must have been interesting. What kind of students did you run into? Were they inspiring to you, or did you inspire them? How did it work?
It was the most amazing job. I absolutely adored that job. You know,
Yeah.
I would just get some older and some younger, but mostly in their 20s. And you know, you'd be like in a lecture theatre, and you might get 20 kids sitting in front of you, and you would just like talk to them about songwriting and help them write their songs and give them good ideas. And like they say, when the best way to learn something is to try and teach it.
Yeah.
And I learned so much about songwriting and music by teaching it. You know, everything that I'd done with music up until then had been just like off the top of my head, instinctive, and then I studied it, and I did a master's in music, and I became an academic,
Whoa.
which is a lot of musicians would say that's like quicksand, like you don't want to go there. You don't want to get into the brainy side of everything. But I found that was just fascinating, and because I'm so sort of like non-intellectual in the way that I had made, it was a good combination for me.
Should we call you Dr. Buzz then? How did you get
Dr. Buzz, yes, please.
I like it. Very good. And your bandmates must be fairly patient. Oh, there you go. I love it.
Yeah.
Now you get treated with the respect that you deserve. Absolutely.
Yes.
So I was saying
This is,
your bandmates must be very patient with the way that the band is run, and like Nick and Murray have been with you for years now.
yes, I know what you're saying. It's like that. Well, I mean that they've got kids and families as well, so there's no one in the band really who's thinking that we're all just going to suddenly become like a full-time rock star outfit.
Okay.
So it suits all of us
All right.
to, and I guess, that's always been the way for a lot of Kiwi bands anyway, because it's, like we don't have that background sort of fan base like you do in the States or in Europe, where you can just go off touring and kind of survive that way.
Right.
So we all have jobs.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
You're not a burden
At the
on
moment,
society.
at the moment we do, yeah, there's no guarantees, of course. Eh? If we all lose our jobs, we're all just going to go rock and roll full time. Yeah,
Yeah, well, there you go. All right.
yeah.
Now, speaking of rock and roll, you got a tune called Crazy Feeling that you did a video for. That looked like good rock and roll fun making that. Tell me about the song, about the
Right.
video, whatever you want to tell me about.
Turning down inside me that wire. I got a crazy feeling. I got a crazy feeling. I got a crazy feeling.
That was only a week ago we did that.
Crikey.
And then it came out within days of it being made. That was Frances Carter, who's does a lot of photography stuff and video stuff. She's done videos for the Beths, and she did some still photography for us. And we just asked her if she would make a video for that. And she just did it so quickly. And then she went off and ran a marathon 2 days later down in Rotorua. She's quite an onto it, person. And during that took us 2 days, and the whole time it was either underwater or I was soaking wet. So
Right.
I had every scene that we did, they poured a bucket of cold water over my head just before we filmed it. So I was saturated and freezing in my clothes
Yes.
for 2 days solid. I don't know if that was her secret way of making me hurry up or something like that.
Well, when I was watching, I was going, "There's no way I'd ever do that." It looks miserable.
Yeah. And it was in Harriet from Flying Nun.
Right?
She's got this great swimming pool where she lives, and so
Oh,
we were
okay.
doing it in this neat old swimming pool, And Ollie, who was the cameraman, he was just diving in after me and chasing me around underwater with his camera. And
You got
stuff.
some great shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very.
Yeah.
And what can you tell me about the song itself?
Well, it was just it was I was the teacher at Mains at that time, and I don't know, I was kind of flirting. I was studying, like songwriters who are a bit more complex and interesting, and you study someone like Paul Simon,
Right.
and he's an amazing musician. He knows all about music theory and notes and all that sort of thing. And I've toyed with trying to write songs that are good for my ego in terms of impressive amounts of complex chords and all that sort of stuff. And slowly, as I was trying to write some song one day about a memory that I had about meeting my wife Janie, um, I was just like going, oh, stuff it. I'll just do three chords, ding, 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 and went back to and and basically, it really only matters if you get some sort of authentic emotion or feeling into your song. It doesn't really matter if you have a whole lot of complex chords. And so then it became like I could just show my students that you can write a song using very basic things. You don't have to be sophisticated.
Right.
Uh, and when it came to making of the video, it turned from a kind of romantic story into something that was more akin to bipolar manic phase person running around, experiencing, I don't know, the magic of the universe or something like that, which was a funny twist on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, now I noticed that there, as the album progresses, there are a series or a bunch of very short. Some of the songs are a minute, minute and a half long. Some of them are very intimate sounding, or almost sound like it's just you, kind of, rather than a full band thing. So, tell me a little bit about how you put this thing together and what those tracks are mean to you.
Well, some of those ones, which like those, sounds like just like me sitting there with a guitar. That's basically probably after I put the kids to bed, and I've done a day's work, and I've just staggered out to the shed, and very, very tired. I'll just sit down and go blah 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 for 5 minutes and then walk off, and then maybe 2 weeks later I'll find this little piece of audio, and I'll go, oh, that's kind of cool. I don't even remember doing that, and I I like the way that you could sort of capture an authentic moment of yourself like that, where it's almost like you're not self-conscious when you're doing it, and it's like looking at yourself in a mirror suddenly somewhere, and you don't realize it's you that you're looking at, and for a split second you get to see how you would perceive yourself if you were someone else,
Right.
and you can do that with, when you're just sitting there stream of consciousness singing for 2 hours, you can't remember hardly anything that you've done, and later on you might find a bit of it and just going, oh, actually that's the real me, sort of thing, and so I always was trying to capture that bit of myself, which isn't too self-conscious or isn't too clever or isn't too ambitious to be cool or
Right.
whatever. And so I would, so that tended to, for me, I could only ever really find that in those little solo recordings. In the recordings where you spend a lot more time doing it and a lot more time organizing it, and you would tend to get the sort of like the facade of yourself that you were happy to present to the world, rather than the unguarded
Right.
part of yourself.
So, are you comfortable revealing the unguarded part of yourself?
Only if I've had a chance to filter it a bit,
Right.
or filter out the bits where I was, I don't know, singing badly, burping or farting or something like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Fair enough.
You know, you must know the same thing, right? You've obviously learned how to be very relaxed in yourself because you're in the public sort of interface between you and the public so much. You learn to
Yeah, I
relax.
guess so. I think the best thing is not to think about it too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Otherwise,
I think that's one of the biggest tricks of being an artist of any sort is finding the place where you don't think about it too much.
yeah, yeah. No, I think you're onto it there. Is that some of the stuff you would teach your students at Maines?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like some of it would be I don't know, like um music theory or how to compose a song or blah blah blah. But a lot of it would be what's the process of finding the authentic bit of yourself, and how do you achieve that just by sitting down? What do you do, and how to? Because I think every human being has this creative kind of genius inside them, and the ones that we see as being so clever or geniuses in the public eye are just the ones who are tapping into it and have learned how to access it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I became convinced after teaching it for so long that everyone has this unusual
Yep.
kind of thing, and it's just a matter of like accessing it or letting it out or being free enough to use it.
Okay. So you've been writing songs for a long time, 30, probably 40 years. Um, does your motivation, has it changed? Do you write for a different reason now than you did when you started making music?
I can remember songs I wrote when I was 7,
Right.
13, all through my teenage years. I didn't ever think that I was going to be a musician.
Right.
I just did it out of some sort of it was just fun to do. I just loved doing it. I was always making up silly songs about my friends, and when I was 20, I was making up drinking songs with my mates, and
Yeah.
all through my 20s, I wasn't in a band. I was working in the stock exchange as a trader, and then I was in construction, and played the first gig when I was 30. But I'd been writing songs every day just into a cassette recorder at home at night time before I fell asleep or whatever. So my motivation, the habit that I got into, I'd written thousands and thousands of songs by the time I played the first Voom gig in 1992
That's
when I was
amazing.
30. So and I was just saying to someone the other day, like John Lennon, I remember him saying that the only reason he finished a song was ambition.
Right.
He said it was like, I wanted to be better than every other band and be on the top.
Yep.
He said I would write the first half of a song just out of creative habit or creative fun or whatever. But he said I'd finish the song by working really hard on it out of ambition.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have that ambition. So
Ah.
I had a million kind of unfinished songs, or it would only finish if I thought about, oh, maybe I should play this to somebody. And that was the great thing about starting a band and starting to do it, is it kind of pushed you into finishing things and presenting them.
Yeah, because I guess when you're in a band, you
the
have a
motivation-
responsibility to your other bandmates, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And let's take this up to the radio. Oh shit, hang on. No, I need to finish. I need to have some different lyrics in the second verse because I'm just repeating what I said in the first verse.
Right. So you got some gigs coming up. I think you're doing shows at the end of May, May 23rd to 31st. What are they going to be like?
So that's pretty much a raw rock and roll band.
Okay, good. We like that.
2 guitars, bass, drums.
You can't
4
go wrong
4
there.
people. Yeah, there's no click track going on in the background. There's no in-ear monitors. There's no computers. There's no AI. There's no auto tune. It's just very sort of like straight, old-fashioned kind of band. You still get the same eclectic mix. We've got some pretty sort of raw, noisy, fuzz, kind of like drone punk type songs, and then we've got sing along where everyone sings some melancholy lyric and gets drunk while they're doing it, sort of thing. And someone asked me once what kind of genre we fit into.
Right.
And it just came to me off the top of my head in that moment that we're what was it, something like drunken sing along.
Oh, okay. Is that a genre now?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's like,
Because I noticed power pop was being used in your press that got sent around, and I'm
Yeah,
thinking,
so
okay, well that
yeah.
makes sense, but it's not exactly what you do.
no, I mean there's a little kind of 20% that we do, which is kind of like maybe the Lemonheads or something like that. It's like tuneful, fuzzy pop songs.
Yeah.
And then there's we used to listen to a lot of weird German music like
Can, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
And it's funny when you can't say can.
Or can't.
Can't, yeah. Can't. That'd be a good name for a band. And sometimes, we'll sing solo, acoustic, 1 or 2 voices.
Yeah.
Quite often my goddaughter Rita will jump up on stage and sing harmonies with me. Well,
Yeah. All right.
I really look at the main part of singing live as some sort of ancient human ritual that we've been doing for millions of years, where we just get together and sing together, and someone's singing the song, but it's not really about that person. It's more about us singing together, and it kind of connects us in a funny way to some universal thing that we have. I sort of think that that's the beauty of live performance. And your ego, if you get up and have a big ego, well, singing to people, it kind of gets in the way of that. And it's much better if you just help the audience sing, and we get on this thing together, then something magical can happen, and you can go home feeling good,
Yeah, sounds good.
I was watching Red Fountain the other day at the.
Oh, I was there. That was a great show.
Yeah, isn't she great like that? She when she was singing that song about her mum.
Oh yeah, Hey Mom. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, that's a personal story she's singing, but really everyone in the audience was zinging with the familiarity of what she was singing about.
Yeah, and everybody has their own take, their own relationship with their
Yeah.
mom or their own situation, and
Yeah.
it becomes universal in a different way with everybody.
Yeah, and I felt like about my mum when she was singing that. My mum's still alive, and I turned to Janie and I said, "Gosh, that would be easier to sing if your mum was actually gone. If she was dead."
Well, that's what happened to me.
Emotionally to your mother in real life would be quite awkward.
The first time I heard her sing it live was like 2 weeks after my mother passed away. So,
Oh, really?
man,
Wow.
it was pretty heavy.
Yeah.
But I had no idea it was coming. It was. So yeah, that's what art is for. That's what artists do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep,
She's
yep.
she's a beautiful person, Reb. Like she's a grandma, and she looks after people in her life, and she has this very sort of real, grounded kind of aspect to what she does,
Yeah. So now, do you see Voom taking another 20 years to make another record, or is there a plan afoot?
Well, we kind of have another one that's already nearly ready to go, which
That's good.
is all recorded in the same room on the same microphones, and
Really?
much different than this one.
And when do you see that making its entrance to the world?
Well, probably in about a year or less.
Okay.
So my kids have left home now, so I'm what they call an empty nester.
You are indeed.
Except that, and so for that long period of time, I was just putting music as just a lower priority than maybe putting food on the table. And now, I have a chance to do something that I should have done in my 20s, which I didn't. And I feel like I've got a new lease on life,
Hey,
So,
well, 60 is the new 30.
Yeah. Woo. It is.
I agree.
And, I still feel completely, like I did when I was young. And I've got an opportunity to go out and give this thing that I was given at birth or whatever, pass on, or just do whatever you think is the thing that you're meant to be doing. And I really feel like I was born to be singing songs and writing songs and singing them with people, and that's what I need to. I hope I'm doing it when I'm 95.
I have a feeling you will be.
You'll come and review me.
If you enjoyed this episode of the 13th Floor's Music Talk series, please be sure to subscribe to the website or to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram and wherever you find your podcasts. There's a whole lot more to discover.